purpose of Freethought Forum is to be vigilant to the encroachment of religion into government and to educate the general public as to what a freethinker is.
My thoughts give me power.
No scholar can map them.
No hunter can trap them. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. No person can...
Hello, welcome to Freethought Forum. I'm Catherine Fahringer, the producer of this show and the hostess for today's program. Today we're going to talk about nursing homes, and if you think you're too young to have them be of the remotest interest or have any bearing on your life, don't touch that dial. Let me read you something. This thought can give a nasty chill, or if you're chilly, make you colder. While you're sitting absolutely still, you're growing older. Before I introduce my guest today, I would like to say that I am going to dedicate this program to my mother, who spent the last 5.5 years of her life in various nursing homes. People aren't static. They grow and they change. Everybody loves babies, but sometimes it's hard for people to love old people. This was my mother in 1898. This is when she was a little girl, about 6. And then when she was a young schoolgirl, graduate of high school. This was her engagement picture. This was taken in the 30s. We were in the Philippines. She was also in her 30s. This was in the 1940s during the war, when she was waiting for my father to come back from a Japanese prison camp. This was in the 50s with a family friend. This was in the late 70s. And the last 2 pictures were taken in 1987, when my father was belatedly awarded the Bronze Star with oak leaf clusters. I have with me today some very distinguished guests. I have Dr. Dannie Sykes and Jeannie Warren. And Jeannie Warren is the administrator for the Silver Creek Nursing Home. Thank you for coming and welcome to the program. There are several things I'd like to cover today, of course, and I understand that you two, let's start with that, the program that you two do for your nursing home.
We have a program called New Family Orientation that we do once a month for just particularly the new family members. We get together with the new family members and our department heads. Those are the individuals in charge of each department, such as nursing. We'll have the director of nursing.
Oh, that's good. They get to meet the staff and know where to go, where to focus when they have a problem.
And Dr. Dannie is our guest speaker, our authority. She had her mother in a nursing home that I ran for several years and volunteered to come and speak. And we kept her every month thereafter.
Wonderful. So you've been doing this for how long now? The last couple?
About 3 years.
About 3 years. Well, why don't all nursing homes have this kind of program? Because there was nothing when I put I put her in 3 different homes and we never had anything of this sort. Never.
When I was a brand new administrator, I thought the very same thing. In fact, I'd only been there for a few months, and I told my director of nursing, these people come in, they don't know who to talk to.
That's true.
And let's
do
something.
You can get lost in the system, and I frequently did. Now, I understand Dr. Sykes is also a nutritionist. You have a PhD in nutrition. And so that would give you a lot of authority to speak to the general type of foods they have in nursing homes.
Catherine, it would give me the authority, but ironically, I haven't used that authority. We can talk a little bit about the nutrition, though, and what I think of the menus that
Please. Yes.
This particular nursing home has.
All right.
The food looks good. The chef has not changed for 2 years. This is an important thing to me in nursing homes, to keep the same help. Now, it's difficult to do, but if you're fortunate enough to have that, then I know the chef, not because I'm a nutritionist, but because my mother's in the nursing home.
That's right.
My mother cannot feed herself, so I go and try to feed her as many meals as I can, which amounts to about 3 a week, I guess, out of the 21. And when I'm not there, she is fed. I go because we seem to have a little closer feeling at that time than at any other time.
Yes, it's something about meal times, I think,
we
that does
can
that.
communicate a little bit. And my mother will say, I don't like that. And I will taste to see what's wrong. I find mostly that it's a lack of salt. The food is good. The food looks good. The 4 food groups are served every time the residents eat. And I might sound a little upbeat on this food business, but I recall the times that I had my mother at my table and she would push the food away. And I would say, what's wrong? And she would say, the food is no good.
Eat.
And I have to recall this when I hear it again at the nursing home, because this occurred in my home, and by the way, in her home many, many years ago. So this is the way you just nearly have to work through these things. Not only my mother, but the people that are around her will push the food back. And what it really is the residents they don't exercise much.
I think they don't have big appetites.
As one gets older, the taste buds
I was going to ask about that. Is that true?
That is true.
They just fade away, right?
That is
Oh,
true.
I can hardly wait till I lose my taste for frozen yogurt.
Now, as an authority, I have taken salt and added it to my mother's food.
It doesn't.
She's 90 years old. I do not think she will ever die because of too much salt, and it does occasionally make the food taste better.
Yeah. I think at 90, you don't have to worry much about that. I wanted to ask you, Jeannie, what some of the biggest problems that you have in nursing homes. Would it be staff maintaining the standards that you like?
The staffing turnover is
Yes,
definitely a problem.
It's rather large, isn't
But
it?
one of the most important things that we try to address, back to the new family orientation, is that we're going to help you know what to expect.
Yeah. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Gene Espree, an ombudsman for the Bexar County Department on Aging. And I wanted to introduce him before we continue this discussion about the staff turnover. And I think everybody would like to know what an ombudsman is. Would you enlighten us, Mr. Espree?
Well, very briefly, an ombudsman is an advocate for people in nursing home, residents in the nursing home. We go into nursing home and we do problem solving for residents in nursing home. Basically, that's what it is. The structure is we are under the Texas Department on Aging. Locally, we are with the Area Agency on Aging, which means within the Alamo Area Council of Government. We go to nursing home and, as I say, do problem solving for people in the nursing home.
Now, is this for people who are competent to contact you, or is this for, say, I, as my mother's caretaker, would I be able to avail myself of your services?
You would be able to call me and we would
I
go
wish
in.
I had.
Right.
Well, before I introduced you, Jeannie and I were talking about some of the biggest problems in nursing homes, and I wonder if you wanted to speak to that. What do you find the things where they seem to have the most trouble?
Well, since we are talking with the residents in the nursing home and sometimes the family members, I find that maybe miscommunication of what is going on.
I'll drink to that. Yes, indeed.
Sometimes the residents may communicate something to me that they may not understand, and we can correct that by simply going to the administrator and correcting the problem. Also, with the family members, sometimes the family member may not be aware of how the nursing home operates or some of their rules and regulations, and we could sort of tell the folks about that. and they may understand a little bit more about it. I think once a family member or the residents understand what is going on, they may appreciate the fact that maybe may or may not, the nursing home is doing a pretty good job.
Well, I'm always giving credit where credit is due. I certainly don't pick on people and complain endlessly. In fact, I despise even having to stand up for my rights, because I like people, and it's very difficult for me to say, hey, you're not doing so well. I have here, I wanted to, I hope the camera can come in for a tight shot, some various articles that I've cut out of the newspapers about nursing homes. Some of them are positive, and some of them are negative. This one was a positive one. This is San Antonio nursing homes get top scores. I thought that was a nice thing to have. Then we have nurses' aides do their tough job well. I wish we could have cloned the girl that wrote this letter. I could have used hundreds of her. This is just one on many elderly patients suffer from depression, and that's something I don't think that is addressed enough. I've always thought it would be so nice to have, well, if not an in-resident psychologist, someone that could be referred to the caretakers of the elderly to discuss things like this, the emotional aspects of aging, not just the physical disabilities. This one, readers tell nursing home horror tales. I'm the star in that letter. I wrote that one myself on the occasion of my mother's television set being stolen. I thought that was a bit much. It was bad enough with the candy walking off and the stamps walking off and the pens and the magazines and things, but when they got to the television set, I said, hey, enough is enough. The last couple of years, we didn't have any trouble to speak of with thievery, which speaks highly to that nursing home on that particular score. Do you find, Jeannie, that a problem in your nursing home, the theft of articles from the patients?
From time to time in the past I have, but usually it's very easy to track down the culprit. Yes.
Well, they couldn't even track down the guy that carted off my mother's TV set, so I didn't know about that. Back to food again. I understand, now you say this is attractive food, it's well balanced. I noticed in the homes where my mother resided that it seemed to me the emphasis was too much on individual things. I mean, there'd be a chicken leg and potatoes and gravy and a vegetable and a leafy salad. She couldn't eat any of that stuff. I had to say, hey, she can't do that. Now, she loved casseroles. I don't think they ever had any casseroles, other than on Wednesday they had the enchiladas and beans and things. But why is this? Why can't they do more? Lots of people really like tuna and noodle casserole. I don't, but lots of little old people do. Do you ever have that at your home?
Yes, and I interfere. We have a dietitian,
yeah,
and I will go to her after I read the menu. And for instance, Thanksgiving, I said, let's have asparagus casserole for Thanksgiving.
Sounds
good.
good.
Christmas, let's have broccoli casserole. And so we've started with that in the evenings. I love casserole too, and I know it's hard for the elderly.
King Ranch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're trying to do more of that. You just have to step in and listen to your family members. Listen to your residents.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot to say about what they would like, and that's what we're there for.
Now, I wondered another thing. I noticed in this last rest home where my mother was, there would be people who would come to the table, and if the food didn't appear instantly, they'd get up and leave. They did not know whether they had eaten or not. And I was constantly running after someone trying to find an aide to bring them back, because that's a problem, I think, that people could be suffering from malnutrition if they did that often enough. Do you have that problem?
Yes, and it is the responsibility of the aide that's assigned to that patient to see to it that they do have, and chart that they had their meal and how much they ate.
You know, that was always a hazy area, the aide area, because my mother would say to me on many occasions, nobody's helped me today, nobody's helped me. And it would be, they were short-handed. Okay, well, some days it was so short-handed that she wouldn't get anything done at all. It might be bath day, forget it. we couldn't do it that day because we don't have anybody. And I really sympathize with nursing homes on that score because I know you must have a terrific turnover. The aides, somebody's making money though, or we wouldn't have nursing homes. But I know who isn't making it, and that's the aides. Do you have an extensive program for training your aides?
We do, and we certify our nurse aides in the facility. And after they are certified, at that time they do qualify to make at least an advance, an increase in their rate of pay, which is very helpful. They still are not paid as much as we would like to pay them.
Yes, there's, I think, a letter of complaint on that from someone who said, my husband works in a nursing home and he works hard, but he doesn't get much. Well, Mr. Espree, back to you. Tell me about some of your experiences with dealing with the elderly in nursing homes. Have you any particular cases that were of particular interest that you could recount? Or do these people have difficulty? What do they do when they want to get hold of you? Say they are bedridden or something. They have no telephone by the side of their bed. How do they get in touch with you? What do they do?
Well, in all nursing homes, we have a little card that says, do you have a problem? Please contact the nursing home ombudsman. But let me tell you that we do have 33 volunteers that's a part of the ombudsman program.
What do they do?
They are the person that go and visit. I visit the nursing home and they also visit. The volunteer is assigned to a particular nursing home, and that's the only home that they would visit.
Well, who do they see, though, when they're there? Do they just go to the staff, or do they visit the patients? Or?
They visit the patient. When they report in, the instruction is to check in with the administrator or whoever's in charge. And once they check in with the administrator, then they could talk with the activities director and maybe get some names of people that doesn't have any family member.
Yeah.
That's our first target group. That would be on the initial visit. Now, subsequent visits, they would check in with the administrator and let them know that they're in the facility. And they may go down and visit the folks they visited before. Just sit and talk with them, listen to them. If a problem occurs, or if they have a problem, that problem will be communicated to the ombudsman. And if they want us to check with the administrator, or even we help them with outside the facility. Sometime there's a question about how the money flows, then we can let them know that the Department of Human Services, how that works, how the Medicaid system works. Sometimes they don't understand why all of their Social Security money was taken away and only allowed $30 a month.
Yes, it seems like thievery in a way, doesn't it?
So, you know, sometimes just sitting down talking with them, and I can tell you one time, a gentleman I visited personally, he was an old wildcat oil man. He was about 80 years old. And, you know, he just talked about his oil field experience. And I guess being a good listener is also helpful. But he told me the story, and when he started the third time telling me the story, I sort of gracefully bow out and told him I'd come back and visit him again. But I think that was very therapeutic for him to tell me the story, and he just told it to me over and over. And that
I know it. They're like broken records. It just goes round and round and round over and over again. Oh, dear.
But our volunteers are taught to be a very good listener, and don't be judgmental. If you hear something that may not appear correct, try to ask the question a different way to try to make sure that you get all of the facts.
From what Mr. Espree says, I think I should have faded into the woodwork and let my mother be in touch with Mr. Espree. I think it seemed a constant battle to me to make things go smoother than they were. It was really very difficult dealing with the people because I felt that somewhere the lines of communication would break down. Either they have 3 shifts. Between the shifts there wouldn't be communication. Then between the aides and the nurse's desk at the station would not be any communication. Between the nurse's station and the head nurse or chief of nurses or whatever their title is, there would be no communication. Did you find that when you first put your mother in a nursing home that you felt that things were not really getting through from one department from one shift to another? Or?
Catherine, when I first put my mother in that nursing home, there was nothing that connected. From the way the bed was made, to the hour that she was awakened, to the time that she was bathed, to the way her clothes were hung in the closet.
Sounds familiar.
I was a basket case.
Yeah.
I really was. And another thing, I was not programmed from a childhood to put my mother in a nursing home. Okay? I said, I didn't put my mother in a nursing home. I took her to a nursing home. Just anything to make this terrible feeling of upset go. And thanks to the administrator, I'll say the administrator.
Where was she when I needed her?
Well,
The wrong
I
nursing
walked
home.
into this small nursing home knowing that I could not keep my mother any longer. I could not afford help 24 hours of the day. And I walked in and met this administrator. And I think that made the difference.
She said to me, I am not here to place my mother in a nursing home. I want you to know that, Mrs. Warren. I just want to look around.
Yes.
So it just so happened the next night we had our new family orientation I was telling you about. I invited her to come. She sat through it, met all the department heads, and began to feel confident. And that night she said, do you have a bed for my mother?
Right.
And then she started being involved.
Well,
that
makes
was the secret.
That
She was
makes it
involved.
wonderful. Yes, well, I would love to have been involved. Now, I had a plan that I tried to advance. They had it for a while at one of the nursing homes, what do they call it, a support group. And I started going. I'll do anything to make life easier for my mother. I felt she needed other input than just me. I'm all alone. My husband works in San Marcos. I don't have any family, extended family, to take part of this on. The last year or so, I've had my brother some of the time. But it's very, very difficult to take it all on. And I thought the support group, that's the answer. And my idea was that my mother couldn't be the only one that needs other people to give her some stimulus. That everyone needs that. Everyone, because behavior changes too with different people. I hear people say, oh, your mother is so charming and lovely, and then sometimes she wasn't exactly what I'd call charming, and I thought, oh. So my idea was that to buddy with someone, another caretaker in the nursing home. Don't you think that sounds like a good idea? And another reason for buddying with somebody is you could cross-visit. You would just, if you have to go for your parent, you might as well go ahead and see the other one. Or if you've got to be really good buddies, you could say, hey, gosh, I need a day off. Can you go, or if it's your day to go, would you go and see my mother? And then tell me if anything it goes wrong. If anything, you notice little physical signs too. I mean, when you're constantly with somebody, you're not as apt. It's a slow downhill thing, and you're apt to miss out on some little clues that would have you maybe consulting the doctor or maybe changing wings in the nursing home or something. But I had none of that, none of it at all. And the support group was very disappointing because all they wanted to do was have guest speakers who would come in and talk about the joys of stroke or the beauty of dying, and I just would go home so depressed.
You felt like it was a compliance thing rather than that it had true meaning.
Well, it didn't have any meaning at all, and I would suggest these things that I thought were neat ideas, and they would just go on their merry way, getting guest speakers to talk about dreary, depressing subjects. I was so depressed at times. I was that elderly person with depression. It is a depressing thing to not have any lightness in there, and I felt that's what the support group should be, is a lightener, lightening the load and exchanging. We hardly ever even got to visit. The first few were so structured, and we sat there in rows, and somebody stood up with a mic and talked at us, and I didn't call that.
In our group meetings with the new families, we hardly discuss the illnesses, and every person, every resident is there because they cannot make it on the outside. So we have that, we all recognize that. What we deal with is the lost socks.
It's something to be dealt with.
The lost teeth.
Oh, yes.
The misplaced glasses. The laundry problems. and we talk this out. We all admit that it's there, and we just, well, I still go in and straighten a closet. I don't leave it to the aide. If it bothers me, I straighten it. If the closet bothers me and I don't want to straighten it, then I just walk away and say, today I will not straighten the closet. But I think other than the family members saying to us, my mother has had stroke, well, then we are sorry for this patient, but we go on and talk about something else. What we can do, what each of us can do to make life better. Are we the omnibus?
Well, I can't believe how fast our time has gone, and I'm wondering, I had 1,000 other things to address here. The baby boom and the problems of the aging population, which is, I think, the Bureau of Census estimates that by 2021, the number of old people in the nation will have doubled. And by 2030, more than 20% of the population will be over 65. We're looking at big trouble down the road. We need more facilities and some alternate facilities. There must be something else besides just a straightaway nursing home. I notice we're getting into the retirement centers now, and I think that's a very good thing. And I'm going to start looking for my own.
In fact, we're being programmed to the retirement idea, the retirement center, but we have not been programmed to the nursing homes. And this is something that we really all need to work.
We certainly do. Thank you all for coming. I really hope you can come back so we can continue this discussion and get on with some of these other points, because this business about finding a home for your mother, and I came home and cried a lot, just a lot.
She cried when she got there.
It can be a very depressing situation, even though my mother wanted to go into a nursing home, which was a little unusual, so I understand.
We can turn it around, though, with support from each other.
Yes, definitely. I think communication and support is the best thing. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week on Freethought Forum. Thank you for coming, all of you.
I think as I please, and this gives me pleasure.
My conscience decrees, this right I must treasure.
My thoughts will not cater
To duke or dictator, no person can deny. Decadent sin frei, no person can deny.